Thanks for watching Numbskull News. And today, I'm going to do predictions for the college football playoff. This is going to be convoluted. This is it's going to be a little deranged, maybe. But I'm going to try to break this thing down to where the likelihood of how many teams the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, and the Big 12 are going to get into the college football playoff. And we know there's going to be one G5. I don't see any more than one getting in. So there goes one mystery. The halfway mark, it's kind of sketchy. I'll do this again after week 9 when we're really close to the end of the season to kind of see where things shake out. But for now, let's kind of see how things are looking. Right now, I'm just using these teams as essentially an example of a starting point, I guess you can say. 8 teams for the SEC, 8 for the Big Ten, 7 for the ACC, and 7 for the Big 12. Now, I'm only using teams that have 1 loss or less than that. So in the SEC, there's 8 teams with 1 or 0 losses. Same thing for the Big Ten. The ACC and the Big 12 each have 7 teams with 1 or less losses, 1 or 0. And those are the teams statistically have the best shots of getting into the college football playoff. So that's who I'm using to make this example. Now, if you notice, I still have Michigan in there, right? Because everybody loves Michigan. They're a 2-loss team. But I'm going to give them a little bit of respect being the defending national champs. And I'm going to include them in there. To start this thing off, let me eliminate some teams so we can get a clearer picture. Now, let's start with the SEC. Let's start with the bottom here. And by the way, all these teams, they should be, I kind of prioritize them and how they are in the standings in each conference. So over here, it's Tech, BYU, Iowa State, Colorado, Arizona State, K-State, and then Utah, which is crazy Utah's that far down, but that's the standings. So, and I wanted to point out the Big 12s. I have them crazy because, you know, I got to have my face in here somewhere. I got to have it. All right. Let's start with OU. They have 5 games played. They're 4-1. They have 7 games left on their schedule, and it's not going to be easy. Starting this week, Red River is coming. So they got Texas. They got Ole Miss. They got Mizzou, which is not going to be an easy game. Alabama and LSU. That's a hell of a damn schedule. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate OU. I don't think they're going to be able to survive that last half of the schedule. They'll have at least 2 to 3 more losses, and I don't believe they'll get into the college football playoff with that. Next up, Ole Miss. Ole Miss has LSU, Georgia, OU, and Arkansas left on their schedule. And frankly, I don't really trust them that much. I'm going to eliminate them. Now, Tennessee, I am going to keep. And here's why. Now, they have Alabama and Georgia left of their 7 games left of the season. However, the next toughest games they have, you could say Kentucky, Vanderbilt. It's beyond, once you get past Alabama and Georgia, it's not bad. They should be able to run that thing. Here's the deal. They're 4-1. They cannot afford to lose to Alabama and Georgia. Can they beat one of them? I mean, look, Alabama just lost to Vanderbilt. That doesn't mean they'll lose to Tennessee, but they just lost that to Vanderbilt. They're gettable. Georgia's going to be tough. You know, I know Kentucky damn near got them, but I can't eliminate Tennessee. What about Alabama, though? They got 7 games left. Tennessee, Missouri, LSU, and OU are their toughest teams remaining. I can't fully trust them losing to Vanderbilt. That's just crazy. But I can't eliminate them either. They may run the table. It's weird. I know Nick Saban is no longer the head coach. He's still in-house somewhere running around. I know he's doing a lot of TV and interviews and stuff like that. He's not like he's coaching anymore. So I don't, that's a tough one. Right now, I can't eliminate them. We'll have to see what happens. Let's get to week 9 and reevaluate, but I cannot eliminate Alabama. I don't feel good about it. Georgia, no, I'm not going to eliminate them. 7 games left. Their toughest games are Texas, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. I think they can survive that. I think they'll lose to Texas. You know, Ole Miss, Tennessee, there's a good shot. I mean, they may come out of that 1-2 or 2-1, more than likely. So I can't eliminate them. Now, what about LSU, though? LSU, 7 games left. They're 4-1. They got A&M, and A&M is looking pretty damn sharp. They got Ole Miss, they got Arkansas, and they got Alabama. I want to trust LSU, but I do not. So they're eliminated. And as far as Texas goes, they're undefeated. They're 5-0. They have OU coming up. I think they'll beat OU. They got Georgia. That's a toss-up game. I'm not sure. Arkansas, I believe they'll beat Arkansas. Texas A&M. I know A&M's tough. There's a lot of hate there. And that's the first game they played in years. And that's an old school rivalry. So you just don't know. But 7 games left. They start off 5-0. I can't see them losing 2 more games. They may not lose any games. So I'm not going to eliminate them. A&M, toughest games left on their schedule. They're 5-1. This is what helps them, though. They already played 6 games. They only have 6 games left. And of those 6 games, only LSU and Texas. Those are their toughest games. So, as it stands right now, I'm not going to eliminate Texas A&M. Right now, I would say safe to say 5 teams that are really hardcore in the running for the SEC. There could be more. Someone else could step up and just run the table. Arkansas can run the table. Doubt it, but they could. You know, Ole Miss can do more than I think they could. OU might beat Texas this weekend and go on a run. I don't know. But I'm just saying that as far as an example goes, I think there's 5 legit teams here in the SEC at this point. Now let's go to the Big Ten. Start at the bottom with Rutgers. They're 4-1. They got 7 games left. Their toughest games left is USC, which it's not as scary looking as it once was. It just isn't. Illinois, which is, they're 4-1 as well, and Wisconsin. I mean, theoretically, Rutgers is looking good. 10-2 is not out of the question for Rutgers, so no, I'm not going to eliminate them. Illinois, 7 games left. Michigan, Oregon, and Rutgers, those are their toughest opponents. The problem is Illinois, I'm sorry, I don't trust them. Nothing personal. I don't trust Illinois, even though I think it's a pretty favorable schedule. But Oregon, they're going to get beat by Oregon. Michigan, there's a good shot they get beat by Michigan. Even though I don't think I don't like Michigan much this year. There's a chance they beat Illinois. And I know that the other teams, they should be able to work around and find a way to win, but do we trust it? I don't trust them. So they're gone. Michigan, already 2 losses. Maybe they can afford another loss. I don't know, because their next loss is going to be Oregon. All right, so they're going to be a 3-loss team. And they got Illinois. They got Indiana. They got Ohio State. No. That. Michigan's got 4 losses written all over it. That's what I believe. At least 4 losses. Next up, Nebraska. 5-1. Now, one thing that works in their favor, they only got 6 games left. But their 6 games is Indiana, Ohio State, USC, Iowa, and Wisconsin. I'm only putting, those are their toughest games left. And I know Wisconsin ain't a world beater this year, but Nebraska and Wisconsin, that's a pretty damn good rivalry. Iowa, not everyone's going to beat the hell out of Iowa. I don't think Iowa is bad as, I don't think they're as bad as people may think they are. USC, I don't trust them, but that's a toss-up game with Nebraska. And right now, Nebraska hasn't earned my trust. I don't think they shouldn't be earning anybody's trust. So it's one of those things where I'm eliminating them right now, but if you come back in 3 weeks and they still only have 1 loss or 2 losses, I may have to reevaluate where they are at that point. But right now, no way. Oregon, I'm not removing Oregon. I picked them to win this thing. Now they got Ohio State next game. They got Michigan and they got Washington. Those are their toughest games left on the schedule. And I'm trying to see what their record is. Did I even write it down? Yes, they're 5-0. 7 games left. I'm not removing Oregon out of there, and I'm not going to. And I skipped over Penn State. I'm not removing Penn State either. 5-0. The toughest games is USC, Ohio State, and Washington. I could see them, like 7 games left, I could see them going 6-1 easily, which means they're a 1-loss team for the year. They'll be a playoff team. There's no doubt. Ohio State, I'm not going to move them out of there either. 5-0. They got Oregon, Nebraska, Penn State, Indiana, Michigan. I'll go ahead and say it. I think Oregon's going to beat them this week, but that may be the only loss they have. Penn State's damn good, but Ohio State always seems to have their number, that at least the last several years. So, no, Ohio State's not going anywhere. Now, Indiana. I shouldn't trust Indiana. Okay, 6-0, so they only got 6 games left. Can I trust them to at no worse than 4-2? Because I don't think a 3-loss Indiana is going to get to the playoff. But can I trust them to go 4-2 and end the season 10-2? Because I think a Big Ten team that's 10-2, even Indiana chances are will be in the playoff. Their toughest teams left: Nebraska, that's winnable for Indiana. Michigan, this year, that's winnable for Indiana. Ohio State, we'll see. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. We could chalk that up to a loss if you want to. And Washington, which may not suck as bad as we think they do, but that's a winnable game for Indiana. So I can't eliminate them either. So SEC, Big Ten, there's 5 teams in each one of these damn conferences that look like they can get there. Now, the ACC. Let's start with Duke. They're 5-1, got 7 games left. The 7 games they have is SMU, Miami, and I included NC State as a tough one. I mean, it's up. I know they're 3-3, but that's still not the easiest crap. And I also included Florida State. Now, I think that's their next game is Florida State. Now, keep in mind, Florida State's 1-5. They sucked this year. But remember, they got a damn good head coach. They still have talent. Probably more talent than Duke has. I know they're 1-5, but would it shock anybody if they ran the table, or went 5 and whatever it is? I don't know what they're 1-5. So if they go, I don't know, they go 5-2 the rest of the way. Should that shock anybody? If the FSU, finishes the season 6-6 or 7-5, it shouldn't. I mean, right now we're not seeing that, but they got the talent and the coach to do it. So it's hard for me to do this. I like Duke. I'm rooting for Duke. I really am. But right now at 5-1, I just don't trust them. I don't trust them to beat SMU or Miami They're going to have their hands full with NC State, I believe. They may truck them. I don't know. Florida State, as it looks right now, Duke should beat them, but I don't know. Now, Syracuse. Again, 7 games left of the season. They got Pitt. They got Boston College. Now, let's don't forget, Boston College is having a good year. And Miami. Those are the 3. They got 4 other games they should be able to take care of. But those 3, I don't know. And I have a hard time trusting Syracuse. I mean, I just do. I don't trust them to get it done. Pitt, 5-0, 7 games left. So they got a 5-0 start. That's great. Odds are they've set themselves up as best as possible. But I'm telling you right now, Pitt, I don't completely trust them. Now, part of it is the schedule. Syracuse, not easy. SMU, nope. Virginia this year. I mean, that's incredible, Virginia. Clemson, they still on the schedule. Louisville, Boston College. I mean, everyone talks about... Look, I talk about the parity of the Big 12 a lot, but there's a lot of parity in the ACC this year. That's not always the case. I mean, it's usually a bunch of like 500 teams or right around 500 teams, and it might be again. But for right now, any of these teams can beat Pitt. 6 of their 7 teams, they're toss-ups, and Clemson should beat them. SMU possibly should beat them. So that's going to be extremely tough for Pitt. I don't trust them. I got to get them out of there. I'm sorry. And it's going to be the only undefeated team right now that I'm going to eliminate out of there. Because they are playing teams close as hell. Cincinnati could have easily beat them. West Virginia should have beat them. Yeah, the cardiac kids have eventually, the heart attack comes and you're dead. Virginia, man, I want to say, they're 4-1, 7 games left. I want to say they got a shot. I want to try to be cool here, but they got Louisville coming up. They got Clemson. They got Pitt. They got Notre Dame left on the schedule. Notre Dame, they're not as good as they maybe once were, but they got a lot of talent. And they're not bad. I think they're still ranked in the AP top 25. And SMU. A great start to the season. They'll make a bowl game. I don't think they'll get more than that. Now, SMU, I'm not going to eliminate. 5-1. They got 6 games left. Duke, Pitt, Boston College, and Virginia on the schedule. All those are winnable. All those are losable. But I've seen enough from SMU. I think this year they're going to be pretty good, and I'm not going to eliminate them. Now, come week 9, then the next time I do this, they may be eliminated. But as of right now, I can't do that. Miami. Boy, I have a hard time trusting Miami. I just do. They're, what are they, 6-0? Yeah, they're 6-0. Their toughest games left, Louisville, Duke, and Syracuse. I mean, this schedule's, they should be fine. Miami's got the talent. They got the NIL budget, for sure. So they're not going anywhere. I'm not going to eliminate them, even though I don't fully trust them. But I think they'll get to the playoff. And boy, I want to eliminate Clemson. But they're having a pretty good year. 4-1, 7 games left. Toughest games, Virginia, Louisville, Pitt. Let me repeat that. Virginia, Louisville, and Pitt. Those are the easiest games they got. Or sorry, the hardest games they got. And the next 7. This should be an 11-1 team. I'm not saying automatically they're going to, that'll happen. Maybe Virginia gets them. Who knows? But this is 10-2, 11-1, written all over them. I can't eliminate Clemson. So, 3 teams that are in the mix for the ACC. Now let's go to the Big 12. Let's start with Utah. They got Arizona State. They got BYU. They got Colorado, Iowa State, and UCF. I think they'll be favored in all these games. Maybe not Iowa State. They may not be favored there, but they'll be favored everywhere else. Can't eliminate them. 7 games left, a doable schedule. Next up, Kansas State. They got Colorado. They got West Virginia. They got Arizona State. And I included Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a little better than people think. Iowa State, they got them. I can see them losing to Iowa State. But 10-2 is not out of the realm of possibility for Kansas State. Thus, they stay there. Arizona State. They got 7 games left. They got Utah, Kansas State, BYU, Arizona, and let's just throw in Cincinnati and UCF. That is one hell of a schedule Arizona State has left, and I don't trust it. They've had a good year. I like them a lot. I don't trust them. Colorado, 4-1. Man, I'm a Deion fan. I want Deion to do well. 7 games left. And they got Kansas State coming up. They got Arizona, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Utah, and Oklahoma State, which I know they're 3-3. They lost their last 3. But we haven't heard the last of Oklahoma State. They're still going to be, that's still a team to be reckoned with. I can't do that with Colorado right now. I think they'll make a bowl, but I can't say they're contenders. Iowa State, no, they're not coming off this list. 5-0, West Virginia, UCF, Tech, Utah, Kansas State, Cincinnati. That's tough. Even if they lose to Utah, lose to Texas Tech. I mean, really, that's the really toughest games. Tech, Utah, Kansas State. West Virginia is not an easy thing either, but Iowa State, man, I don't know. There's something special about that team. They're not going anywhere. BYU, undefeated, 5-0. Toughest games left, Arizona, Oklahoma State, UCF, Utah, Arizona State. If there's ever a year BYU is going to get into the playoff, this is the year. This is a competitive-ass program. Everyone's seeing it now. And they got a hell of a start, 5-0. I love them. Texas Tech, 5-1, 6 games left. That helps. They got Iowa State. They got Colorado, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia left on the schedule. That is a doable schedule. 11-1 is not out of the realm of possibility for Texas Tech. 10-2 is definitely not out of the realm. So these 5 schools right here, I got in the mix. So what can we glean from that? I wouldn't be shocked in the SEC if there's 4 teams that come out of there. Just wouldn't be shocked. Big Ten, would it be shocking to see 4 teams? Because I really believe Indiana's getting there this year. I know Oregon and Ohio State are getting there. I know Penn State's getting there. Rutgers, it's up in the air. I can't eliminate them. I don't fully trust them. But, there it is. I mean, the SEC side, like I said, I don't want to have A&M in this group, but the schedule says they got a damn good shot. They are right there. If they can get past LSU and then see what happens with Texas, they should be fine. Texas has got one murderer's row of a schedule, but they're 5-0. They're undefeated. They could take on a loss or 2, and they'll beat most of the people they're coming up against, if not all of them. Georgia's tough. Alabama's tough. Tennessee. So it's kind of, let's just say there's 4 teams from the SEC and the Big Ten, respectively, that make it to the playoff. That's 8 teams. It's a 12-team playoff. I already have my G5 champ. At least that's who's going to represent the G5 this year. In this example. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it's Louisiana Monroe. Who knows? But we're just going to go ahead and use Boise State as the example. So we're going to have a G5. So let's just say, here, this will be easy. Boom, boom. 8, 8, 9. There's 3 spots left. We know, let's just use Clemson. Right now we're going to go ahead and do that. We'll use Clemson and we'll use Texas Tech as the examples of who gets in from each one of these conferences. So you got 8, 9, 10, 11. Who's getting the extra team from the ACC or the Big 12? I mean, right now as it stands, I think Miami's got the easiest path. I think that's the odds right there. I think Miami's got the easiest road to that 12th spot. And like I said, that's just an example. But I think Miami's got the easiest road. Utah, BYU after them, Kansas State, Iowa State. And SMU, I think, has the hardest road to hoe at this point. There's also a shot that A&M's not for real or that Alabama's not for real. I still think Georgia's getting there and Texas is getting there, no doubt. But at the Big Ten, it's these 4. It's going to be tough for any one of those 4 not to make the playoffs. But I can see A&M, even with an easy-ass schedule, I can see them. What happens if they lose to LSU and Texas? And then trip up against somebody else. It could happen. Alabama, you lose to Vanderbilt, you can lose to anybody. Now, is the SEC going to get less than 3 teams in? No. No. The CFP committee will put 3 SEC teams in, no less than that. However, let's look at Alabama again. They got Tennessee, they got Mizzou, LSU, and OU. That's the schedule. Much easier than A&M. So let me do this. We can easily see this. This year we can easily see, this is a possibility, 3 SEC teams. Now you can replace Alabama with A&M if you want, but this is just what I'm going with for right now. I can't see less than 4 Big Ten teams getting in. Not with those schedules. I just don't. I can't see it. If Indiana completely falls on its face, there's a chance Rutgers doesn't, or maybe Illinois doesn't. That's all I'm saying. It's going to be tough for the Big Ten not to have 4 teams in. And at that point, you can easily see 2 teams from the ACC and 2 teams from the Big 12 getting in. It's really going to depend a lot on what the SEC does. And does Miami not trip up? I don't think Clemson's going to. What does SMU do? Do they shit the bed the second half of the season? But, K-State's got a rough schedule. Iowa State's got a rough schedule. It's pretty open for Utah. Texas Tech, it's kind of rough, but, they're right there. BYU. The Big 12 is just every week. It's just something. It's just, the parity is nonstop there. So, a lot of this will depend on the SEC and how they do. They won't get less than 3 teams. If they get a 4th team, then either the Big 12 or the ACC is kind of screwed. It's kind of screwed. But here's the problem for the Big 12. Clemson's a huge name. Name value matters to the CFP. We know it does. Miami, huge name. SMU, not really. Not really. If they trip up a little bit, they're gone. And we know the Big 12 teams, look, the Big 12 is respected by the CFP committee. They just are. I can go through the freaking evidence, but there's no need. At one point, a couple of years ago, they picked TCU as like the 3rd overall team and left out Alabama. If that tells you anything, because they didn't leave out, Florida State last year was undefeated and they got left out for Alabama. If that tells you anything. in. They can get 2 teams in. It'll be a lot easier if the SEC only has 3. The Big Ten, don't count on them having less than 4. Just don't. I wouldn't do it. The schedules line up too well. And these 3, Penn State, Oregon, and Ohio State, are too damn good with too big of names. They're not going to get left out. And they're not going to lose much. Maybe they each come away with a loss. But if Indiana only has 1 loss, or even 2 losses, they may still get in. Indiana. But that's it, man. Went through all the scenarios. It's crazy shit. I mean, there's way more scenarios than that, obviously. And like I said, if you're a fan of a 2-loss team right now, you're not out of it. You're not. I'm just using examples of the top teams of all of those 4 conferences right now. And I'm only in. If you're a G5 fan, you're like, hey, look, I use Boise State as the example for all of G5. That's a hell of a lot of conferences to go through. I'm not going to do it. Most teams don't have a shot in hell anyway. So the reality is there's not going to be multiple teams from the G5 getting in. That ain't going to happen. It's not going to play out. You're not going to get 2 1-loss teams, or there's not going to, I don't know. It's just not going to happen, folks. So, sorry. But this is the best I can do with taking a look at it and see how it could possibly break down. Anyway, I'll see y'all guys after week 9, and we'll go through it again. We'll see who's left standing, who's not. Should be a clearer picture of what's going to happen. Anyway, thanks for watching this crap, and I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.